Okay, guys, yes, I do need to shave, but if I was doing that right now, I couldn't be getting you all these videos that I'm backlogged on. And this one, for hardcore audiophiles, may be one of your favorites. I've been giving you lots of eye candy, but this video is going to give you lots of ear candy, not so much with music and systems, but audiophile talk from true professionals, recording engineers, experts like Ralph Karsten, members of my group, and this is all unscripted feedback and just wherever the conversation went in the Zoom with my members in the WhatsApp group. I think you're going to find it very interesting. I'll try to put chapters of all the things we covered, but it's amazing all the topics we did cover. If you've got an hour to listen, I think it's worth your while. Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Trying to shed jet lag from Munich, but I don't even have time. It's like 2 in the morning right now. I'm up awake like it's midday, but I got to get some stuff out to you. I'm going out of town in a few hours to New Orleans to visit my mom. Again, I'm traveling, but she's dealing with a terminal illness. I'm going to go take care of her for a few days. I might be able to visit my friend Doug, who you've seen on the channel, and you're going to see him in the attached Zoom. He's got an amazing system. If I get a chance, I'll do that. But also going to be going to Costa Mesa when I return. And Costa Mesa, some FYI, the potpourri speakers are going to be there. A big dealer on the West Coast, reached out to Mike Sweck, wants to carry the potpourri, got a room last minute at the home entertainment show in Costa Mesa. I was going to go there anyway, but now it's going to be extra special with the potpourris there. So just FYI on that. A few other housekeeping things. I've got tons of stuff to give you from Munich. I've just given you a taste. I've got the AMG tour, which you think, what does that have to do with, cars have to do with audio? Well, I'm going to share with you what I can. A lot of it we couldn't film, but there's a lot of crossover stuff, anecdotal stuff I can share with you that I think you'll find interesting. Also, Via Blue Tour. Couldn't film a whole lot there, and I'm going to share with you why, but it's super impressive. You're going to want to hear what I can share with you on that. Also, AVM. I've talked about how great MBL and Burmester are, two German companies that can do it all. Well, AVM's kind of under the radar. You're going to want to hear how that tour went. But also, getting back to this video, this is really a great video for hardcore audiophiles. I've given you lots of eye candy from Munich and ear candy too. But this is a different type of ear candy. It's true experts talking about audio and giving raw feedback, unscripted, it's an hour long, but you'll see it's pretty riveting if you're a hardcore audiophile, the different topics we cover. And I think it's super important. I give you everything unscripted, unedited. You can just see genuine feedback. We don't know what each other is going to say. So everybody that gives their feedback on different rooms or their take on different technology, and we have quite a few experts in here, Ralph Karsten, Mike Robner, recording engineers, designers, people that have invented Class D, basically. You're going to hear a lot of tech talk related stuff, but also anecdotal feedback and even some secret stuff that I've only shared with my WhatsApp group. If you stick it out to the end, you'll probably hear a lot of that. I'll try to put chapters for you, and I also try to introduce all the people. But if you're a frequent visitor to my channel, you'll recognize a lot of these guys and their pedigree. And again, anybody's welcome to join the WhatsApp group. There'll be in the description a way to join through the YouTube channel, or if you buy a box from me, you get free entry in that. So there's a couple of ways to get into this WhatsApp group. Join these guys. There's over 100 total, but this is a good sample and an hour long that'll give you a taste of what it's like day to day, 24/7 to be amongst these people. And let me know your feedback after you watch this. Enjoy.
So you mean everybody's not buying a Magico M9 for their spare bedroom?
I don't know.
Guys.
That was not the best performing speaker, in my opinion. It wasn't even close. I was not.
That's what everybody said.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, you would never have a Magico M9 in a low ceiling room like that. And like I mentioned, yeah, in fact, there was a couple of rooms where I know the speaker for a fact is much better than it sounded. Magico M9 for one, I've heard it in their reference room, and then another room in Dallas. But also, I'll do a little spoiler alert for my wrap-up video. I know the Source Point V10 Master Edition, whatever they're calling it. I know it's a phenomenal speaker. I know Andrew Jones' pedigree. I know everything about the other iterations are phenomenal. But when I went into that room, the volume was way too loud. The noise floor was way too loud. I wasn't on axis. These are things, and it was really one of the most aggravating sounding rooms I went into. But it wasn't, you have to be, this is one of the things I want to make clear is I don't just knee jerk say that room is to blame and the gear is to blame. I know when I go listen to it, if ever in Andrew Jones' studio, or if I put that speaker in my house, it's a totally different equation. And so one of the things that I see often, very primitive wrap-up reviews and knee-jerk assumptions that it's the gear that made that sound good. No, that's why people have different impressions, even show to show. And I'll, on the flip side, I mean, Akora always sounds good, but I would say Akora sounded the best at this show. And I told that to Val. And we just recorded Carl, you know, he got off camera. Thankfully, he put on, all we were looking at was his bike racing thing on the TV. But he was just at my house and we filmed his wrap up and he said the exact same thing. That was the best he had heard, the Akoras. But again, did the Akora speaker change or anything? It's all about how it's mating with the room, what you're doing at the time, the noise floor. We went into that room, the Akora room, at the end of the day, had the whole room to ourselves. So it's a bunch of variables that I think I want to just drill down and constantly remind people it's not always this amp, this speaker, that's to blame, this cartridge of what you're hearing. There's so many variables. If you're not in the sweet spot, listening to your favorite tracks that you know well, at the volume alike, no noise, you know, all is set up properly, no room issues, which all of these variables are never controlled to a level where you can make these definitive decisions. But I like to get this kind of feedback because we are able to give things that consistently, you guys all go to the shows, you have good ears, you have good systems. This is a good chance for people to get other opinions, things that I didn't get to see, or different opinions of if we didn't hear ear to ear on anything. But I didn't hear anything from any of you guys that I don't agree with. But I'll go ahead and open it up to any of the guys that couldn't make it. I know Bob wanted to make it.
I'd like to, you didn't come to me yet. You forgot me for some reason.
No, Dave, I did. And
I've
trained myself to forget you.
No, you didn't.
I had a couple of questions.
No, let's go. Okay.
We don't care about you.
We're going to go to Dave.
Okay.
Dave, the devil's coming for you, man.
So hard.
The devil's coming for
Yeah,
you.
we're going to talk about that, Pete.
I was hoping his internet goes out because he lives out in the middle of nowhere, but it ended up working tonight.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to tell you, we talked about Danville, and I had the same experience. They gave me a nice dedicated AB as well when they closed the door and went through the whole thing. And I agree with everything that you've already said on that. Another great thing I experienced was the PSI audio, that with the active bass trap. Had a very good demonstration on that.
So you're talking about PSI audio, not PS audio. Let's make that clear.
That's right, PSI, yeah. And I think they're Swiss.
Okay.
Switzerland. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have that active bass trap, and they changed their design this year where it's very small, cylindrical, maybe about 10 inches diameter, about 24 inches tall, as opposed to a subwoofer type cube they had in the past. Well, what he did, he put on a 60 hertz tone, and he turned them on one at a time in the room, and you could hear the tone decrease. And I said, okay, that's nice. He said, yeah, but wait, let's just do one, and let me play music. And he played some music that was a little thick in the bass. It was just, you could tell, it was not as good as it could have been. He turned that one on, and sure enough, it improved that music. It was incredible. You know,
so
it just,
it's
what it did.
active bass trap.
Exactly.
And what is he doing?
Those at the shows.
The technology, it has microphone inside, which senses what's going on in the room. And my thought was, okay, so you're feeding an out of phase signal that eats up all the bass that goes to it. And he said, no, it's much more sophisticated than that. And they went on to explain how the way it works is different from that, but it does set up a type of field of energy around that unit that absorbs 64 64 times its size amount of bass if that was, say, a standard acoustic treatment.
Well, while we have an expert here, that this is above my head, I don't know about this. Ralph, have you ever heard of this?
I have. I'm
Oh,
familiar
Ralph,
with it.
you're muted right now.
Yeah, is Ralph there?
Oh, you have, Mike?
Yeah, I have active
All
bass
right.
cancellation.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
Yeah,
We'll go to both of you guys. Yeah.
I'm having to take care of some stuff. My phone is just about to die here, but
Okay.
I've considered actually doing something like that. The big deal that you've got to work with in almost any room is dealing with standing waves. And you're going to need some kind of subwoofer to do that in a lot of cases. A speaker that can fire out the rear has less susceptibility because the bass that's coming out of the rear is not in phase with the bass that's coming out of the front of the speaker. So you tend to have less amplitude in the standing wave. But if you can have a subwoofer or something like it that can sense what's happening around it and produce some bass energy, you can break up the standing wave, and it'll as soon as you get rid of any bass hump or anything there, you clear up congestion in the mids and highs because of the way the ear has its own built-in tone control. If there's too much bass, the highs will sound muffled. If there's not enough bass, it'll sound bright on the highs. So definitely worth doing.
So I'm going to have to look into that more. I think I saw them at Munich last year near the end of the show.
It was very impressive.
I'm going to look into it and see if I can get it one to try.
Just
Michael,
for
you said
reference.
you've had an experience with this as well?
Yeah, I have. I mean, they work well to a point. And the secret is, I mean, you could suck everything out of the room with an active speaker.
Yeah.
And of course, so then it depends. Like if you can't have enough amplifier power and fix things the right way, it could be a pro or con. But for rooms that have really nasty peaks in it, if you place it in the right spot and know how to dial it in precisely, as
it's not
everybody
connected
heard.
to anything.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, it's not being driven by anything. It's an independent unit.
Actually,
Isn't it?
as you mentioned, it's got a microphone built
Yeah,
in
it's got
and
a
a
mic.
DSP. And if you calibrate it like a DSP, you can select what frequencies and things.
Mhm.
You don't want to suck everything out, but you lower it enough to where it evens out with the rest of the energy in the room. And just a few dB right off the top will do wonders. It tightens up the bass and makes everything, much better. So it does work great, but you can, their implementation, this has been around for 30, 40 years. People have done this in the past. It's been around for a long time. And I've done it too. But,
Supposedly,
it's a
they're
trade-off.
not putting out inverse information. It's supposedly not out of phase stuff that unit does. That's why I'm not exactly sure how it works, but he shut that down right away. Said, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not putting out any energy into the room that you can hear in any way, which doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
even feel, know.
It only knocks it down a few dB right at where the speaker is at. So if you're 6 feet away, you can't tell. It's not something you hear from that speaker, but it's dropping the energy in that location. Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely look into it a lot more in Munich, because I think they are in Munich. I remember now a microphone being in a bass trap, and I kind of just dismissed it when I passed by. I probably shouldn't have. I'll look more into it.
Yeah.
But
there's a guy in
you
Florida
have to be
here
out
that
of
has-
phase. Huh? Go ahead, Tom.
There's a guy in Florida here that has 4 of those.
He does. Okay.
Swears by him, but
it would have to be out of phase, though, wouldn't it? I mean,
I would
that's
think
what I
so.
thought.
Yeah, it's sucking energy out.
If you're familiar with the Bose noise cancellation headphones,
the
principle is exactly the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now that makes sense.
So
excuse me, Joe. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys and hang out for a bit, but I do have to run.
Yes, thank you so much, Ralph.
Thanks,
Great
Ralph.
seeing you.
Yeah,
Great having you.
So much. Be well.
Hopefully we can do it
Thanks,
again.
Ralph.
Thanks again.
I also wanted to mention Edgar. We had the famous Edgar Saturday night dinner.
Yes, thankfully you all got to go. I had press duties.
Yeah,
but-
you'd missed it, and you were missed also, by the way. And I think you're going to hear some of Pete did his coffee readings again.
Really?
And yeah. And he wasn't too kind to me.
What?
He
I
saw
mean,
some evil
he's never
stuff.
wrong with his
Yeah.
coffee reading. So let me
Yeah,
guess.
I didn't
I'll just
have
take
one
a guess.
last year.
I wasn't there. I'm gonna take a guess. You turned over the coffee cup and it showed that Dave is creepy.
There you go.
Why would you say that? Just because I'm wearing a face? Come on.
That's probably one of the best things you've worn comparatively. But
I figured that was a shirt with his face on it that you guys were talking about.
No, not this one.
Couldn't tell.
I'm
And
just surprised that Pete still has a face with Jaws about to eat it off. The whole time I've been nervous, thinking Jaws was going to take his face off.
Anybody hear the Clips planar speakers?
Yes, I did. Sure did. And it was a tight room for that speaker and the open baffle bass driver. But in the proper room, it has that potential like any kind of open baffle line source planar to give you that just immersive dynamics. They were playing really deep bass, really dynamic tracks, really loud. I think, Doug, you were in that room with
Yeah, I
me.
liked it. I liked it.
I know, was it a little bass heavy for me in that room? Yes, but it wasn't because of the gear. It's just because of that room, and you know there were only so many sweet spots you could get. But yeah, that has a lot of potential. Very shocking to see Altec Lansing
Yeah, really.
doing
Yeah.
a planar.
Exactly.
Like
Uh,
a
and it was
magnet
done
copy.
with the Indigo electronics, which I'm a big fan of those electronics, looks, performance. So that was a standout room, of course. But again, like I said, this was not a show for if you wanted to hear something great. If you weren't in the potpourri room or room that had some DSP and treatments, you're not going to hear anything that great at the show at all. I was very impressed with the Cora being better than most shows, but that's a rarity. In terms of most of the rooms I went into, it was not even, I told Doug, I don't even really want to go in some of these rooms to sit and listen. I want to talk to the people about the gear. I want to see the gear, but sitting down was painful to listen to in a lot of these rooms with quality gear.
Yeah.
So, but that one still stood out as, you know, having that potential. Any other questions?
I got a question about, I got two questions about rooms that I seen. There was a speaker that's open baffle, which is like Pac-Man style, where the speakers are eating the next speaker up. It's like 20 channels or something like that.
Okay,
You
the Fourier
got it, but
transform.
you never got to, I don't know if you got to listen to it. And then the second
I did, and I'm about to release that video. I recorded while I was in Fredericksburg in the hotel room last night, recorded the preview to that because it's a long video. Fred's in our group, actually. He's in our group, in the WhatsApp group, and he's been emailing me for 2+ years about this project. It's been a labor of love, a science project, very passionate guy. He even offered to fly me out to California to listen to it, to get honest feedback. I couldn't do it in Seattle when he first did the first show. Bob filmed that for me, thankfully, but I didn't get a chance to hear it. He did it at this show, setting up a 20+ channel speaker, all those wires. Somebody stepped on it the last day. They had to shut down early, stepped on one thing. It shut down the whole kit caboodle. When I listened to it, well, when I went into the room and featured it, it wasn't ready to be listened to yet. They were still setting up. When I finally got back the next day, Doug was actually in there with me. It still wasn't dialed in. It frankly didn't sound that great. However, like I was just talking about, you can't attribute all that to the gear, although there were specific things I told him for sure he had to address in the frequency tonal balance. And he admitted he had actually made some corrections in that area to his taste. But I said, that's not to my taste, and it's not flat. And it wasn't making Louis Armstrong sound great. So I'm going to have that video. It'll probably come out before this video even comes out. But yeah, Dave, there'll be a big video that has music clips, at least 3 clips of that Fourier transform. He's in our group, and I would be very anxious to see how this progresses because it was like something I thought for sure wouldn't work at all. Like I thought it was going to be a disaster. And
There's something there.
This
something there with
potential
that.
there. Tonally, it wasn't there, but those are things that can easily be addressed. And again, taste.
Innovative.
It's innovative, and this is the kind of passion, you know, we have so many people in our group. Everybody just has a genuineness and a passion for being an audiophile of different experience levels and technical. I mean, Bob can make a speaker. I send him a DIY kit. He makes a speaker. You know, we got Michael Robner, who's got such a pedigree in the industry. We've got access to people like Ralph, and then distributors, dealers. You know, unfortunately, we do have Dave, but you know,
Must be a Dave thing. 'Cause that's about all.
I don't know,
we've got
man.
Dave Olson to offset Dave Husto.
I don't know.
No,
I
no.
don't do much but move heavy things.
You got the light in the dark here.
We're gonna start calling him
obvious it's
Bakersfield
like-
Dave, but Dave, I just visited Dave. I still got videos to release from Dave Olson. Hey man, he's got you talk about gear. His room's not there yet, but his gear is phenomenal. You're gonna love that. And then he's gonna be moving to a new home. I'm definitely gonna be one of the first to come visit him there, and also hook him up with some RD acoustics panels.
What kind of room are you going to have there, Dave?
Well, I'm looking probably to move into Louisville's got basements, so I'm thinking about doing a basement. The only problem with the basement is probably it's got a lower ceiling, but
Right.
it'll be better than this. This is just Bakersfield houses are, you know, they're tough to get a stereo, especially this size in. So basically, I just got a house that's very open. And I mean, when it's open, like this is part of the living room, the kitchen, everything. It's just a big room.
Right.
I have to go because I'm sitting in it, but it's got an arch, you know, ceiling. It's got no back wall. It's got no left wall. It's got a right wall with the windows. So it's a challenge for my system to play well, for sure. Which is one of the reasons why I got the box. I really wanted I wanted the room connector correction, and my woman really liked the DSP because we listened to that at a show where Edgar was playing it. She loved it, and when it came out with the room correction, I'm like, well, this room sucks, and any other room I get probably is going to need help anyway. So
I've got a trip planned to come back out there because unfortunately, when I was out there, the Bach didn't arrive on the day. So we just hung out and had a good time. And you know what Dave Olson brings to the table, much like you, Bob, his fiance is as much an audiophile and into this stuff. They share the hobby together, and it's a lot of fun. She's very high acumen, good ears, loves to go to the shows. So that was great seeing a couple, and that's something you don't see often. But in our group, you've got Mike Sweck and Melissa, you got Darla and Bob, Dave and his fiance. We got so many people that bring this hobby to their family. And I think this is showing that it's not just a bunch of old guys doing the stereotypical audiophile look and funness. We have a lot of fun.
I got the 6-year-old listening to it now.
Oh, is that right?
And a quick little story is Michaela, which is my fiance, she went up to Dave Manaport, which is the distributor for TAD, and she told her that my TAD R1s are just too small, and he needs to build bigger ones.
When have you ever heard, like, Michaela is super cool. You guys got to meet her at the next show, because if she can make it, she hadn't been able to make but you got to meet her. And she's so cool. And when have you had the fiance or wife want bigger speakers?
Right. Right. And it's in their main room. Like, it's the only room we really have it's in the main room. So she's
super cool. They're really cool couple. I have no qualms going back out to Bakersfield, even though not much in Bakersfield, but we had a good time.
Not much.
And, we're gonna.
I got one other question for you guys, and maybe you sort it. I consider this a lifestyle system, but Focal brought a Utopia, theater system, and I just want to know, what does 7 beryllium tweeters sound like in a room? I mean, that's got to be intense.
You know, you can't judge those home theater setups at these shows. I mean, I'm not a big fan of these show setups of the home theaters. They're not. They are very disjointed with the channels. You know, if you go back to my archives, and maybe before some of you guys' times, I spent some time on the Avia home theater setup CD. Not only is it good for home theater setup, but I was telling people it's good to use for your 2-channel. But when I do my home theater setup, and Doug, this is a good little digression, not really related to AXPONA, but he'll remember we went to a show in LA one time where we heard $100,000 plus home theater. And at the time, $100,000 seemed like a lot. That's
Mhm.
nothing nowadays. But it was so good with Pink Floyd, The Wall, well, Roger Waters, The Wall. And I came back obsessed with getting that level of performance. And not only did I get that level of performance, I realized that what I was hearing wasn't really even all that great compared to what was possible. And one of the main problems with all of these speakers all over, and this is going to tie into AXPONA in a second if you follow me, it's very disjointed, all these speakers. You get surround impact, but they're not really connected. They're not really immersive, and they can't give you proximity effects, which the Bach can. The Bach can place something close to your ear. David Chesky in that binaural can walk up to your ear and whisper in your ears. We did a demo in Edgar's room where he turned the room into a recording studio. I've got that video to release. And one of the things that the Stratosonic module for the Bach is going to do is now it's going to make all of these things coherent. There isn't going to be that disjointed aspect of a cheap speaker up here, different tonally than your center, and all of your speakers are going to be the same speaker. But now you're going to have those two speakers as your center, your one in your ceiling. All of the effects are coming from the same speaker. And I don't think people realize how much better two speakers doing Dolby Atmos is going to sound. Theoretically, I haven't even heard it yet, the Stratosonic, but that's what the goal is because that's always been the weakness of a home theater, is all of these speakers of different types and sizes, they never match well. And it's impossible to get the phase right. And when you do that via CD, there's a pink noise that'll go around your head and around the room, in theory, with your home theater. Almost no home theater I've ever gone into can do it. It jumps from one speaker to the next to the next. It's very disjointed, and that ruins the immersion. That's not going to be a problem with the Bach Stratosonic and other things. So that's why I wanted to tie it in. It's a good question. But I know you were probably worried about how bad beryllium in 12.
I had, well, so I have tweeters now with the TEDs, but I had one of the Maestros.
The Maestros.
Those Evos, and they were bright as all get up. I mean, I had them with Luxman, which toned them down, but once I got the playback design, shit, they woke the hell up, man.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Is Ralph in the WhatsApp group?
No, but I'm gonna go ahead and send him a invite. He's a great guy. Yeah, he needs to be in there if he has time. I mean, he's on the AudioGone forums. I don't know if he does it anymore because I don't ever go to the AudioGone anymore, but that guy's super helpful. Definitely one of the icons. With people like Ralph, Steve McCormick, these guys have done it all in the industry.
I wanted to ask him a question so bad when he was talking about excursion on the low end driver and what it does to the rest of the frequency response. I was wondering if he was starting from a place of more excursion, that driver's going into distortion, or that topic intrigues me. And so what he said, excursion. So I was like, okay, but then he had to get off it. So that's why I was wondering.
Well, we'll get him back on, and then also Mike Sweck. Let's invite Clayton Shaw into the group as well. He's going to become a dealer for Potpourri. He's a very respected designer. Is able to get tremendous performance at a low price point, at least a high value price point. And those are the kind of people I've always enjoyed because, not everybody has unlimited budgets. So those are people very important in the hobby. And that's another takeaway. There were some budget systems that were performing, again, much higher than some of the mega dollar rooms. And, that's a big takeaway and very important for the hobby.
And Michael had made a comment about some of the shortcomings on Class D amplifiers that made them sound boring. And it was something with I'm trying to remember
what. Well, I can help you with all that. So a Class D amplifier, you've got better than MOSFETs, which can produce an absolutely perfect square wave up into a megahertz range. but you have an inductor and a capacitor on the output to turn that square wave into a sine wave. And at 20 kilohertz, where you try to roll it off, you get like 80 or 90 degrees of phase shift. And as we know, using Bach DSP correction, a lot of phase shift errors means your imaging doesn't work right, or your brain can't, create the harmonics of a music, like a violin properly when the highs are delayed. The same thing with a speaker. If the tweeters are all mounted on the baffle, you got a dome and a cone driver, the tweeters hitting your ear first. And so, when speaker designers can't build a speaker that produces all the sound coming out at the same exact time, your brain is always trying to put it back together and it struggles with it. So the other problem with Class D amps is if you use a switching power supply, that RF noise on the DC rails modulates with the power stage, and that creates odd harmonic distortion as well.
That's the part that I was honing in on, because that's yeah.
So that's very critical that the rails are clean as a whistle, because there's no feedback in most of these amplifiers for correcting anything that happens that way. And that's one of the, it's easy to build a cheap switching power supply, but to make it perform like a great linear and keep the noise out of the output, not only the output, signal itself on the power stage, but on the input side where you take a comparator, it's like a triangle wave, and where you catch that triangle wave creates the pulse width. If you get any RF noise in there, that just screws up everything. So it's very critical that your whole system, like a tube amp and other gear, any RF noise that gets in the system just messes everything up. And most Class D amps, it's very difficult to get a super clean power supply for it. But when you do it, it sounds more analog. It just, cleans everything up.
Yeah.
Well, after that explanation, probably everybody listening out there, their eyeballs are open like Dave's shirt.
Yeah.
All
right. So to this point, I've designed over 250 Class D power stages. So, yeah, I'll show you some of my work sometime.
But, yeah, I'm definitely going to spend some time with you.
I have like 30 patents in Class D power amplifiers. So
now I was going to ask the same question. Are you in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah,
yes.
He's in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked at Cirrus Logic. We did the first Class D amplifier on the market, period, which we demoed at CES. The TACT amp was out at the time, and then it designed stuff for TI. I worked at Cirrus Logic, and we did the Class D there. And then we got let go because of 9/11. And we started D2 Audio. And D2 Audio is the chipsets in the Mark Levinson amp. So, Jason, you've heard the chip that I worked on.
Cool. That's really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of the AGD?
Every time I've heard it, it didn't sound good. So I don't know. I know the guy is talented, and it's designed off an international rectifier controller, which is fine. It's all about implementation, but every time I go to the show and hear it, it didn't do anything for me.
So, Michael, I have a question for you. Now, knowing how you can get real specific about those areas, when you listen to an amplifier, can you catch, oh, they're missing that right here?
Oh, I hear it. Yeah, I mean,
because that's one of the things that I'm trying to do to connect. When I listen to something, I want to connect it to the piece in the amp, to where I'm not just a blanket statement about it, but oh, that's because of.
And it's because you're reviewing an amp for me. I think you're asking this question. You're reviewing an amp for me that's a Class D amp. Manufacturer asked me. We should also send it to Michael.
All right. So here's one of the things I recommend is any RF noise that's like a ground loop. Like the amplifier generates a lot of switching noise, which pulls on the AC cord and on the input jack. So whatever you hook it up to, you've got an RF system, ground loop issue. So everything that you do, speaker cables, input cables, power cords, your grounding, it's all going to affect it.
Right.
So,
More so than a Class A B amp? I mean, is that
yes,
okay?
yes, because all the switching that goes on, like if you go, I worked at Crestron and we had an AMI chamber, okay? And I've designed circuit boards where I've got, gigahertz, $1 million scopes.
Yeah.
I probed the circuit board. You put any digital chip on a circuit board, it lights up the whole board. The ground and the power supply, there's inner planes, which we call ground and power planes, and then you have the traces on top and bottom. If you put one chip on the board, you'll see RF noise at the other end of the board. None of that grounding can contain RF energy. It just goes everywhere. And like if you go in an EMI chamber, you hook one piece of wire up to anything switching and you'll fail an EMI scan. It's that difficult. So PC boards really cannot contain the energy properly. You have to use all these techniques to create the current loops to loop so small that it doesn't really radiate. But you still have stuff. So any power supply input, output, you got RF noise going in and out of the system up into the gigahertz range. And to put all this filtering in there would cost a ton of money to put all these chokes, inductors, and fancy caps in there to contain it. So Class C amplifiers can be absolutely amazing, or they can sound like crap because of the power supplies and other stuff you do to it. And then the other problem is the output filter. Most of them use a ferrite inductor, and those have a saturation point where if you're drawing a lot of current, they create a lot of distortion. And the good amps, we use air core inductors, but they're much bigger.
Right.
And most of the stuff you see is these little tiny inductors with a
Yeah.
ferrite case, and they're absolutely shitty sounding. They sound like crap. I would never use one,
Yeah.
but everybody uses them. I mean, we sold products that had them because, an air core inductor is this big, and these guys are like this tiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's night and day difference in sound quality. So
You and Alberto would have just the greatest conversations because he hates me.
Alberto does the same thing. He puts all the circuitry in the tube and then the output inductors elsewhere. And so, yeah, everybody who builds Class D amps knows all this stuff, but it's very challenging. But if you do it right, it sounds like a tube amp. It can be extreme.
Well, Ralph certainly did. It passed the test. I'm using Primaire Class D. People, multi-channel one. People constantly get surprised. In fact, Joe Finninger, the biggest tube amp guy I've probably ever featured on my channel, he's the one that builds his own. He could not believe I was using a Class D amp.
Yeah. Now, the reason why it sounds good is when you're switching, you have like a 50% duty cycle and it goes back and forth up to 90 and 97 or down to 3%. And when you have a speaker hooked up, like in a tube amp or AB amp, you got a top transistor, bottom transistor. And when they get to zero, the gain on it just drops off. So you get this crossover distortion. In a square wave switching power stage, there is no zero. It's 50%, it's still putting current through the transistors. So you have no crossover distortion. So it's like a Class A tube amplifier. You have the distortion is on a pulse by pulse. So instead of being at audio at say 1 kilohertz, your distortion's at 384 kilohertz. So it's all distributed throughout the sine wave. So it doesn't have the same type of characteristics as a solid state AB amp. So it's more like a single-ended tube amp. All your distortion is continuous through the whole wave.
So everybody's homework assignment is to read Michael Rovner's patents.
Most of them are hidden.
Okay,
I was married to a patent attorney.
Okay,
There we go.
I've been to shows and people are like, oh, we'll just read the patent, we'll just steal it. I mean, guys just talking to my face and I'm like, no, I got you beat.
Well, actually, the guy that has the most patents is Dave Husto, but it's all patents on creepiness.
Creepiness.
He's got it. He's got
Creepiness.
it patented. Nobody else can be
Uh,
creepy. He
No,
is
Dave,
the
look, I
creepiest.
spent 3 hours with dinner with Dave, and he was perfect. He was
Captain
a great
Jack.
guy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
He is my best friend that
He
night.
sued.
I'm telling
Everybody
you.
has to pay a royalty if they act creepy because it goes to Dave.
Yeah.
And and Dave, you remember I reached out, I said, I do want, is it New Orleans?
Yeah, yeah.
I was saying that I wanted to go by New Orleans, and then I wanted to include your listening to your rig in that, if possible.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But and Dolby
Anyone is welcome.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I told Michael, you want someone, anyone in my area, like to hear the potpourri, the Bach. The
So
best time
I'm
to
trying.
do it is in someone's home. You know.
Darla's in the room, so she can hear this too. But I'm trying to get out more this year. I hired a few more people this week. I want to get out and not just shows. And I want to do California. I want to do DC. And what was the other one?
Costa Mesa.
Costa Mesa,
California.
New York. And then I want to go to some people's houses and hear their rig, like hear their, because I know that's so different when people have been working on their rig for a year or two or more. It's going to be great. No matter what, it's going to be great. It's going to be, and I love to hear the different stuff out there, but I want to get out more and do stuff like that and not be so.
All right.
the Airbnb is going to be ready soon. You can come down to Texas, my home. There's plenty of dealers down here we can visit, plenty of audiophiles you can visit. My friend Steve has MBL Extremes, Estalon Forzas, Magico M6s. I think he said he ordered some YG XVs lives.
When is he going to get the good ones?
Okay.
I know exactly.
All right. So I just posted a picture on the chat for you.
Uh-huh.
So I worked at a company called MediaVision. It was the first digital audio sound card on a PC. And we had a guy who joined, John Neary, who worked for me. John, when MediaVision blew up, he went to Dolby. He became a director. And John Neary is the inventor of Dolby Atmos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the picture you.
So I designed that amplifier for Dolby. For the Atmos theaters. It's 24 channels. Each channel could put out 862 watts. That one PC board does 18,600 watts at Class D. And all the output was spice simulated. I passed EMI the first time in the chamber. So that's
So how much power you said?
18,600 watts. On
So what did you plug it into?
There are 24 channels. So three of those would do
what did you
60.
plug in the outlet to? I mean, what outlet did you have to?
Oh, we had 2 power supplies that did 3 kilowatts each off of a 20 amp, 120 volt rail.
Okay. Wow.
But the capacitors on board, you could get like 100 milliseconds of full power into 3.2 ohms. So 866 watts per channel, Class D.
We can do that for some subs. That's the next project. Give to Bob.
So I still have this board. Anybody want to? We'll hook it
that's
up
what I'm
on
talking
your
about. We
rig
can
at
put
home.
it in a sub.
Yeah.
That's great. So you're in WhatsApp.
Yeah, he's in the group. He just
I'm in the
posted.
group.
He just posted. I find that people's homes, we get a strong bias to our system, and we get so acclimated to our system that we no longer, like, it's very difficult. I know you don't suffer from this, Jason, because you hear everybody's system. I don't even know if you get to hear your system, but I hear my system 99% of the time, and I get this. I know I have a bias. I know I hear it, and I know what I think. I think that's the way it's supposed to sound. I go to other people, and I judge it against mine, and it's not the same thing. And I know it because, like, I'm not a panel guy. I don't like horns, and I just find this strong bias towards point source box speakers because that's what I have. And so I'm just saying that because I heard somebody say, yeah, individuals' homes, they got it dialed in. Well, yeah, but they got it dialed in very specific. They get so acclimated to their system. I don't know. And a lot of people, I don't think, really go out and challenge their systems. I try to show to hear other things. But
the thing is, our brain, we get acclimated to a certain tone or EQ.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, your brain doesn't know if you hear something else as a reference, that becomes your new reference. I go out and hear live music all the time. I'm in Austin, Texas. I hear music 365 nights a
Yeah.
year. I'm a musician.
That's awesome.
And if you stood in front of some of these guys, like I go hear big band jazz, the trumpet player will take your head off. And I mean, a drum kit sounds completely different on a stereo than it does live.
I agree.
And most people's like, if you heard it and then you went home, you're like, well, my stereo sucks. It's like, so it's very hard to be able to duplicate real stuff. You move your head around the image, a multi-instrument, you can't duplicate that with stereo speakers. But the way our brain works is, it's like food. You get acclimated to something and that becomes what you feel is right. And I have friends all the time. I go over and hear their rigs. I'm like, the EQ is so bad. And it's like, no, that's how I like it. And it's like, everybody's different. Everybody's got different food taste.
I can go to somebody's house and no matter at what level they're at, I can appreciate what's going on. So it's more like going to someone's house to eat. You want to see their interpretation of what they like. So that's more kind of what I meant. I guess I have a bias of my rig, but I can go to anybody's house and appreciate what they've done. And it doesn't matter what kind of gear they have. I just love to see it, hear it. And especially if they just love their own system, you get to experience that emotion too of them being so happy with what they've done.
Yeah.
I like all of it.
Well, I think this is a good tangent, even though it's off the tangent of the topic of AXPONA, but it's going to be a video I've been meaning to do because, as Dave Olson said, I was not immune until I got the chance, in recent years, although I've always been attending shows. The bias has always been there. Whatever I was listening to in my system, I thought was good, and I liked it. But what I've figured out, because now I've heard virtually everything in the world in so many different environments, is that one thing that I did wrong was focus on just a few recordings. I was that stereotypical audiophile for so many years, played just a few recordings, certain genres, stayed away from certain things, and then I got conditioned to like it the way my system was colored, without much room treatments, without Bach, without it before Dirac even. And I got conditioned to liking that EQ that you guys were talking about. And then when I would hear it at shows, I say, oh, well, where's the bass? Well, I'm used to a big peak at 60 hertz in my room. I didn't realize that bias had thwarted me because, and it's something that I want people to wake up to because, yes, if you like it, you like it. Whatever resonates with you, fine. But you have to have some self-awareness to say, well, then why am I also, though, only playing certain tracks? And then what I realized is when I did flatten that out, not only did I eventually realize how much better that song sounded, even though I was preconditioned not to at first, but then I realized now that I've got it flat, I was able to listen to so much more that I had avoided before because I had that EQ boost that, okay, sounded good on that one song.
Yeah.
And Keith Don't Go is a perfect example. Tin Pan Alley. People will like a very ridiculous frequency. You can almost have any frequency response. People will like it, and people will become conditioned to liking it. And so I don't even do those tracks with the Bach AB because whatever people are conditioned to, what they've heard 1,000 times, they're going to think it's wrong. They're not going to have the self-awareness to say, okay, it's different. Let me see what else I can listen to now at that EQ curve and that frequency response, that tonality. And that's when you start hearing the payoff in general, flat with minor curves here and there.
Right.
That pays off with more music over time. Is that your experience too, Michael?
So I think what's happening with Bach for me, like the first time I put Bach in, it changed my system that I have become so accustomed to. And at first, well, I haven't got there. I only got to hear it last night. But at first I'm just like, well, I'm missing some body of my song. But I was like, no, I don't know. I got to listen to it and get more acclimated to it. And then I think at first, and I think that's the rejection I hear, people immediately reject the Bach, or at least that's what I've been hearing from other sources. And I think it's because it is different. There is a difference there. And I think we become so biased to our own systems. And I know I have it. I know I go into other, rooms or whatever, I hear the systems. I'm always taking what I think is right, because that's what mine sounds like. And I knew I always had this, but it takes time, I think. You got to give it, like, I figure I'm going to evaluate this thing after about a month, and see what I think, but it's totally changed. It changes the song itself. Even when I go back to the bypass, it's subtle, but it's there. And I have to listen to it to get it to gravitate to it. And I think that's maybe what you were pointing out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had to do. It took me at least a week in my own case of just realizing, wait, it's different, but having that self-awareness of, now can I listen to much more recording? On balance, are more recordings now sounding better? Because yes, we all have EQs in our head that we're conditioned to and that we like. And most people, if you just boost bass a lot, it'll sound better to almost everybody, just because of equal loudness contours and certain things.
Well, the other problem people don't understand is your ears are very nonlinear. And so depending what volume you play, like if you play
equal
pink
loudness
noise,
contour. Yeah.
Yeah, if you play pink noise and you go up and down in level, it sounds completely different. So be careful when you use the Bach that you're setting the volume at the right level. And as a recording engineer and mastering, we know our level is 84 dB as our reference, because if we master something too high, loud, or too soft, your ear EQ gets whacked out. So you could use a Bach and still whack your system out by playing it at the wrong level for what it should calibrate your ears to. So that's another thing. Your ears
you're
are
saying
very
84
nonlinear.
dB for listening is
Well, that's what a mastering engineer, we're trained to master at.
Okay.
Because one is you'll get ear fatigue, and if you work on something for 4 hours, you come in the next day, it sounds totally different.
Yeah.
Because your brain acclimates and your ears you have muscles inside that will tension and do certain things which affect your hearing response. So, but as Jason mentioned, I used to have Apogee full range ribbons, and it didn't matter what you played. Everything just sounded right. It was nothing was like you never wanted to EQ anything. But when speakers are broken, you always feel like you got to fix something, because certain songs sound a lot better than others. And then you're like, well, it sounds great on this one, it's whacked out on that one. But that's the beauty of the Bach, is once you calibrate your system properly and you acclimate to it, then everything will start to sound, better. And
you don't have to be afraid of any recording for the most part. You can always turn it off.
That's what I was going to say.
You can always turn it off if you want to, but I've never turned it off. But once it does take that period.
But there's a fun factor. More bass is, you get your body going. It's like you want to play air drums, crank it up, right?
But it does circle back what you brought up to what I said earlier about Andrew Jones' room. It was too loud. It was well over 84 dB, and that created an annoyance. That was, people don't realize volume is EQ. It's just raising everything.
Yeah.
But because of the equal loudness contour and whatever dB we listen to, we perceive it differently, the different frequency.
Well,
it's a form of EQ.
The other problem is, and as a guy who's done live sound, and we EQ a PA system differently. Like 2 to 3K, once you get above a certain level, it starts tearing your ears off, and your brain doesn't like it. So when we EQ a PA, we scoop that area out because it'll tear your head off. So that's another thing you should be aware of, is speakers that sound too bright. It depends on what volume level you're playing, and you might want to do some bends in Bach for when you really want to crank your rig. You scoop that area out a little bit, and it'll make it a lot easier.
And there's different curves.
Yeah.
Now with the Bach, the one thing that I don't worry about anymore, I know years ago, if someone went to listen to the system, they'd go to play a particular recording and I'd cringe before I do it. Oh God, that's gonna sound.
You don't have to worry about it.
Or I gotta play this on Qobuz or what. Now it's like, is it on Spotify? I don't care. I just don't have to worry about it.
YouTube, whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna play as good as long as they've heard it somewhere else. I'm fine. It doesn't.
And we ran it all weekend, pretty much 100% in the potpourri room. So all those validations that we got from the potpourri were combined with the Bach being run, although we let people A, B if they didn't. But yeah, certain frequencies are bright. Dave Husto's shirt is too bright.
Right.
I'm gonna have to wear some of mine.
So I think we're over
Life is short. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
real quick, in Costa Mesa,
I booked it. I've already booked.
Is that one clothes shop that the stars go to? Is that near there?
No, it's in Melrose.
Okay, Melrose.
But I can take you down there if you want to
It's only
go.
50 miles away, but unfortunately, it's about 4 hours.
I know, that's the thing. Yeah. It was
Traffic's
actually a
that bad.
breeze. Driving to Dave's place, Bakersfield from West Hollywood was actually a breeze. No problems at all. But Orange County to LA, that's a
forget
nightmare.
it.
Oh.
Even 3 o'clock in the morning is a nightmare.
Yeah, so, but yeah, great getting with all you guys. Thanks for joining. Again, the best part of the show is seeing you guys and the camaraderie we have and just the good naturedness of all the people there. I love taking you guys for the ride. Anything I can do for you guys, you can call on me. And I thank you guys for all the help you give me. Dave Husto, I give him a lot of grief, but he's got lots of content. I got tons of content from him still to release, tons of content from Bob still to release that dates back months. I'm so far behind. I literally don't have to film another thing for the rest of the year. But I will be, because I'm going back out to Dave Olson's house. I'm going to Malaysia, going to Dallas with Mike Sweck. We're doing a install at John Harlow, who's in our group. We're installing WR1s at his place. Stay tuned for that. Tom Schmidt is a big help at all the shows.
When
He's
is
got
Puerto
the Dutch
Rico coming up? When is Puerto Rico coming up? With
Oh
the
yeah,
other potpourri?
that's still to be determined. Alessandro he's basically creating his own custom speaker with potpourri, with all the customization. So that's going to be a cool install, Puerto Rico. Then we're going to go to Doug's house. Doug's Destin condo, where these WR2s are going to be that were at the show. We're going to deliver those. We're going to be using them with Steve McCormick's 20-watt Class A amp. And guys, you got to hear that on the potpourris. It sounded phenomenal.
And that was a multi-channel class?
No, this is a 2-channel based on the musical fidelity A1, and Steve knocked it out the park with this. And price point, you're not going to believe, especially for members of the group. But yeah, this is going to be a tremendous value amp, tremendous sounding.
Really quick, did anybody hear the audio note? I saw some pictures of the DAC and all that. It looked really unbelievable, and I just wondered if anybody.
I did have a video from that room, I believe, and it's using the field call speaker, and they were playing Rage Against the Machine. They were cranking it.
Yeah,
they were cranking it, and you would not believe a speaker crammed in the corner, dynamic field coil. Peter and I have become good friends, and his son Daniel. Love hanging out with those guys. It's a certain ecosystem and philosophy you have to buy into with AudioNote, but that's one of the companies that does everything soup to nuts, cartridge to speaker. And they do a great job. I love going into their rooms. It's always fun.
A lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did the Tombstone or the Cathedral speakers sound good? I saw them. They look.
Oh my God. I mean, yes. I mean, always Klaus is an expert of setting up in hotel rooms, because he knows to put them at the super wide spot. Yes, you're going to have that first reflection, but in the grand scheme of things, the trade-off is much better the way he sets them up. It images so well, immersive, near field. And then he darkens the room with the candlelight. Very brilliant setup guy. He's been doing this for decades. The new speaker, okay, I told him the color was way off. The two different colors, but the mausoleum style.
Yeah, that was pretty ugly.
Hey, let's see how it does. He says he's even going to put some Roman soldiers on the steps.
No.
He's going to do that. He needs to do it at a limestone or something.
You're right. That actually would be cool. But he likes to keep it at a price point, $6,000. That's actually pretty good.
Single driver, right?
No, I think it's
two-way.
Two-way. He's a two-way. It sounds great. very polarizing looks, huge. I just don't know how he's going to sell those things. Good luck to him on that.
Exactly.
I told him he
There
needs to
might be
change the
some
color.
tweaking. I can see something coming of that. There's just something off at the moment. A
You
little.
know what he should do is, Bob, you got to come down to Texas. You need to bring down the do-it-yourself project I gave you. Then I think Klaus needs to look at that design. That design, I think,
Oh.
could be much better for somebody.
What'd you
to
build?
take. It's a, should we, well, we're going to keep it a secret for now.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll tell you guys. It's a pyramid speaker. It's
Mhm.
almost, and it's based on a do-it-yourself design that I think won some award a while back, but it was based on economical crossover parts and whatnot, and basically you and a very thin cabinet with almost no structure and resonance control. And Bob just knocked it out the park, building it super thick, super braced. You put even some not no res, but you put some polyfill in there. And supposedly the measurements were even as good as your focals, right?
Yeah, Darla liked just the before I even had a chance to do anything, she just like, these are going to snuff the focals out, at least the ones that I have.
And
So,
looks wise, guys, this thing looks phenomenal.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
And a pyramid design, if you think about it,
Mhm.
has a lot of value from a box perspective.
I
And
like
so,
the structural. It has some strength just being a pyramid. So
yes,
I think it's cool. Like it's just,
it's super cool. And it's got the
Yeah.
center of gravity low to the ground. Resonances and stuff shouldn't be wherever there is resonances, usually with the woofer, the bass is very strong. That's a speaker I want to hear. I want to hear how I want to hear it with the Bach and actively crossed over. The performance should be off the charts.
I was waiting till maybe that Steve McCormick thing or something, and then I want to get all the Via Blue stuff in there.
Yeah, it's on the way, although postal
Yeah.
shipping to you is a
We're
minefield.
gonna go by the post office tomorrow and try to give
Tell
them
them.
another pep talk. But I do think the one thing that I noticed is, and not to take up any more time, I want the terminal of the driver to be polished, and then that wire done to the right degree of just that right amount of silver, and I want that Via Blue wire coming to the copper 24 karat, just that whole signal path
Pure as can be.
all the
Yeah.
way through. And I really think, for what's there, it's gonna sound really good.
Well,
I
you
have to-
have been probably the biggest Via Blue customer. You've even bought spools of the wire. You're the first one that I had to ask them, can you sell a spool? But you have the SE6 speaker cables.
Yeah.
You have the terminals you've replaced on the amp, the Odyssey
Yeah.
amp.
I even wanted to go into the amplifier after the terminal. And it's a short wire, but I was thinking, hey, just like, with the power cord eliminating that, it's like, clean that up and clean that one up. Maybe.
Uncle, do whatever you
It all
want
makes
because
a
you're one of the
difference.
best customers. And then the feet, you have another guy out there. He changed the feet,
Yeah.
the Via Blue feet on the power conditioner. He just called me raving about it. So yeah, they'll do whatever you want. And this is all stuff for future videos. So it's a nice little preview. But yeah, we're way off topic on AXPONA, but either way, it's been great catching up with you guys. Maybe we should do a regular show in the
You
future.
can't invite people that didn't go and expect it to stay on track. Right?
I know, exactly. Well, that's what I think is fun about this, getting together with you guys, irrespective of AXPONA. But hopefully we can all get together, Capital Audio Fest. If y'all want to go to Costa Mesa, I'm booked for that. That's in early June.
I'll
And of
definitely be
course, yeah, you could be there.
Are you coming up for Lone Star in Austin?
I won't be in town, I don't think, because I'm
Yeah,
going
it's
to Malaysia.
May 2nd through 5th.
No, I think I'm going to be in Dallas with Mike Sweck. So I'm going to
Okay.
miss that. That's one show I unfortunately miss. But
Did those Dutch speakers actually hit 15 hertz?
well, they measure them, so they said they do. But I don't know. I barely can hear 15 hertz. You can barely hear 20
Yeah.
hertz.
Oh, I know you
Yeah,
can't.
mine-
But it must
mine
be
measure
like
flat
20
to 20.
dB. I just okay.
Yeah.
Tom has a pair of them.
Tom
Mine
has a
measure-
pair. Yeah.
Mine measure flat to 20 in my room with ORC.
That's amazing.
It is
Yeah.
an amazing speaker.
They're
And I
crazy.
tell you what, Tom tried to replace him with a $30,000 diptyque, and
Oh.
a diptyque's not a, it's a good speaker,
Yeah.
but it wasn't even close. He went back to the Dutch and Dutch. So that's a speaker I talked to the guy, he's in Texas. I plan with my Airbnb to feature different speakers in there, rotate, give people a flavor of different types, and even different rooms. I'll have maybe different speakers. Some are going to be dedicated bedrooms, but I'll try to I want to rotate stuff to show people, it's not about, there's a lot of people that are going to buy potpourris, but it's not for everybody. Like Dave Olson likes Point Source Box. He's got one of the best on the planet with the TAD. But the Dutch and Dutch, you don't have to spend much more than that, and you're done.
Yeah.
You've got reference performance that put a
Aren't
lot
they
of those-
coming out with a new model?
They didn't
Dutch and
mention
Dutch?
that. They didn't mention
Yeah.
that.
They were supposed to come out with that's the 8C. They're gonna working on a 6C to try to be under 10 grand. And then there's supposed to be a reference system, the 12C, a full range. I couldn't imagine what that's gonna be like, but I haven't heard much more about it since last year. But right now it's just the 8C. I believe the 6C is gonna be the next one debuted, which is gonna be a little bit smaller than the 8Cs that you guys saw at AXPONA.
They have 8-inch drivers, right? I assume the 60 is going to have 6-inch, and the 12s. I think we kind of see
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I tell you
Yeah,
what I'm
Yep.
going to do. When I put the Dutch in my Airbnb, I'm going to take people in there, blindfold them, put them in front of the system, and play it. And I want them to tell me what size speaker they're listening to, what size driver, because it is uncanny what they can get. And then they're using the Bach intro, but that's still very effective at helping. And then the way they do measurements, they give you measurement tools with the speaker. It will impress all the guys that measure, which, by the way, I did run into Amir at the show, who does a great job with the measurement side. Now he's polarizing, maybe a little too much on the measurements, but
Yeah.
but yeah. What was I felt so bad because I ran into him in the show and I was like, I recognize this guy. And I obviously said hi, but I was like, wait, where do I know him from? And it wasn't until after I read, oh, that was Amir. And so then luckily I ran into him again and said hi more officially. But look, there's room for all of these views in the hobby. There are a few bad apples obviously out there. We know about that, but I talked to Cheap Audio Man, Randy. He's got his niche,
Yeah, Randy's
got
cool.
his audience. He admits what his level of experience is, and it's awesome. What he delivers is awesome. Carlo La Rosa with Secrets of Home Theater and High Fidelity, the greatest guy in the world. Tom Martin, I got to meet his videographer at the show. He does a great job editing Tom's videos. He does the best job if you're going to edit videos for at least my taste. He does a great job. I wish I had an editor that could do that for me. So he does a great job. There's a lot of good members of the press, got to see them, and members of YouTube. So there's enough for everybody to choose what they want. And I know Dave Olson, when we're out there, he says he basically watches everybody. If you can watch everybody, and that's what I encourage, watch everybody.
I'm a whore.
Yeah, if you watch everybody, then you'll find who you resonate with. I never tell people don't watch other people. Watch as many as you can, because I think over the long haul, you'll see what I bring to the equation and to the table, and whether it resonates with you or not. And in our case, most of us, the same things resonate. So more are welcome always in our group. Don't hesitate to say hi, even to Dave Husto, if that's your show. He won't, he's a little creepy, but anyway. Bob will be there, easily found. He's often mistaken for me. Michael Sweck's always in the potpourri room, so he's easy to find. Doug, he's going to be starting to come to more shows. Dave Olson, a great guy, and got to have your fiance's definitely got to come to the next one for sure.
Well, she'll definitely be at Costa Mesa, but she's in pre-med, so she doesn't get a lot. We have a 5-year-old son, so
that's right.
It is tough.
Oh, is the dog around? Can your dog make a cameo?
Yeah. Well,
ooh, let's bring Huggles. Are the shows dog friendly? I've never even asked.
No, one time in Seattle, Klaus brought his dog.
Yeah, I got my two are listening in.
Okay, mine's outside.
Mine's asleep
My
on the
dog weighs
couch.
more than the couch I'm sitting on, so
I know, yeah, that's a big dog. So
Oh,
yeah, say hi
I
to
just want to say one note
yeah.
for these guys who have test equipment. I have all of it too. I have audio precision, every piece of gear you can measure stuff. Just because you can measure something, it tells you nothing about music. I mean, I could hook up an oscillator and call it a power amp and make it look good, but that's not what we listen to. So yeah, I have big arguments against guys like Amir who just they'll sit there and well, I measured it. It's got to sound good or not. And I'm like, that's a very small part of how things work in the audio world. So
Well, you just can't look at one measurement.
exactly.
You have to
Well,
be able to.
a sine wave barely tells you what the amplifier is doing.
Yeah.
That's
And, I think he catches a lot of grief unfairly for being too primitive. I think he's a little more sophisticated than that. But I get the point is that I like to be balanced. I definitely respect the measurements. We see when we talk about measurements, we're talking about things that are audible, very audible, and you
Right.
can A/B.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
but yeah, sometimes when you get to 140 signal to noise ratio versus 130,
Oh yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous to rank at that stage. It's like,
well, I thought it was hilarious. Paul McGowan's like, oh, my preamp does 150 dB signal to noise. But
okay,
then
who
he
cares?
goes into his Bascom King power amp with a tube in front that only does 70
Yeah,
dB. I'm
exactly.
like, yeah,
Your
whatever.
noise floor is only as good as your lowest component.
And audio precision at 2 volts, which we call line level, you can't get 150 dB on the test equipment. It doesn't
That's
work.
right. Yeah, the
So
noise for the
you have
equipment
to
itself.
crank it up to like 30 volts and then it'll measure that way. But it's like you blow your amplifier up.
That's right. So yeah, you could take it to an extreme with these measurements for sure.
Yeah.
And then just finishing it out, Tom is always at the shows helping out. Potpourri Room. He's a wealth of knowledge. Don't hesitate to say hi to him. And of course, Pete the Greek deserves special treatment because he's a legend, Pete the Greek. But also, he was the one that introduced me to Bach. I had gone into the Bach room the prior year, and I sat off axis, and I'm like, I didn't know what the deal was. And Edgar wasn't in there at the time, so I wasn't all that impressed. I was like, it sounds fine. It was with the Jansen speakers, but I didn't realize until the following year he drugged me in there, and I was like, oh wow, okay. And I at first thought it was wrong. I said we played Hotel California, and I'm so used to it. I was so conditioned. I was like, this is wrong. This is not how I'm used to it. And then I realized, wait, I have the DVD. It's from the recording where the video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the spatial cues are right. Oh wait, I've been listening to it wrong. And so having that self-awareness and not dogmatically thinking that so many people think that they just know everything, they come to knee-jerk conclusions. And that's one of the things that I found very rewarding. And the biggest takeaway, or one of the biggest from AXPONA, was running into Wendell Diller at his age, still open-minded to trying something different. He could have definitely just said, Magnepan, I'm a Hall of Famer, passive parts.
Yeah, kiss my ass.
Kiss my ass. I believe in passive parts. He is actually innovating and making a product at this point, embracing DSP. This is the kind of guys, J.R. Bosclair, he's a total vinyl guy, but when he heard the Bach, he's like, heck, this could put me out of business for setting up subs. And he says anybody with a digital rig should at least try it. These are the kind of people that are super smart, but also not dogmatic and know-it-alls. And that's what I want to give props to all you guys. It's all high quality audiophiles, and anybody watching this is welcome to join our group if you're of the same ilk. So we've gone way over time. I'm probably going to break this up into many videos so we don't have too much, but thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you on the WhatsApp group soon.
Oh, hey, Jason, real quick. I want to thank Doug for letting me use his speakers again for our show. At some point, we're going to get them to my feet.
Well, I'm glad they sound good.
They sounded great, so we broke them in nicely for you.
Did you replace your MBLs? Because you have MBLs, right?
Yeah, no, we have a place in Florida, and I've been wanting to put a little rig over there, so I'm gonna put them over there. I'm keeping my MBLs.
Okay, awesome. Wow.
But if he does replace the NBLs, it probably would be either the sail model or the hyphens to give a contrast.
The hyphens had my mind doing
I'm
crazy
telling you
things.
guys, the hyphens are not to be overlooked. That speaker is killer. So if you get a chance, I don't know. Oh, I will. They have offered a chance for it to come down to Texas.
Yeah.
They play
So
Hip, so that's one of my favorite bands. So I'm already into them. But,
okay.
Yeah. Well, I haven't got to hear 'em
If
yet.
you don't mind the looks, man, that is a badass speaker, design wise, sound wise. I'm trying to get it down to Texas, and you guys will be the first to know in the WhatsApp group when I can. All righty, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Good seeing everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Have a good one.